Hello everybody and welcome back to Red Eagle Politics. Make sure you guys like this video down below and subscribe to the channel if you are new. So, we have some new polls that have been released over the past couple of days, and we got some polls out of Fox News. And Donald Trump is neck and neck with Kamala Harris in a lot of these Sun Belt swing states post-convention. He's within the margin of error in every single one of the states in which he is not leading. And I kind of wanted to look into this a little bit further. Because here's the deal about Fox News. A lot of Democrats are celebrating these polls because, Fox News is Republican leading. Therefore, their polls are going to actually be overestimating Trump. And that is not true. That is BS. Fox News pollster is not conservative. They contract to Beacon and Shaw. And Beacon and Shaw, they're run by a never-Trump Republican or a Republican that doesn't really like Trump too much and a liberal Democrat. These are not Republican polls. Their track record historically is not on the Republican side. And in terms of the polls that we see here, it's post-DNC and Trump is neck and neck. I mean, this is incredible. And Donald Trump's campaign hit back hard, as they should, and they're true. They said, "We report you decide Fox's polling has an awful track record," and it is that time of year again. We hear about the month of August, and this is very true. Every single election, midterm or general, since 2000, they've had a massive Democrat surge or a Democrat bump in August polling that was to the left, sometimes significantly to the left of the end result. The one exception was 2008, which Obama gained in the summer around that time. But it's important to note that, obviously you have the crash, and while Obama was going to win anyways, he definitely padded his margins after the false surprise with the market crash and the Great Recession and things like that. So could it change this year? It's possible. But it's completely legitimate to call this out. The people dismissing the argument are the people that are going to likely, if history is any indication, have a lot of egg on their face come election day, come election night, which is going to be happening in about 2 months and about a week. So you look at this, and it's true. Fox's polling record is awful. Let's look at their polls in these states. Back in 2020, in the month of August, we have Arizona, we have Georgia, Nevada, and North Carolina. Let's look at Nevada. The polls were accurate in Nevada in 2020. Donald Trump was not underestimated at all. It's one of the few times where the RCP average was 100% on the nose. And when you go into the polling here, look at Fox News's poll in the month of September here, which is the closest we have to August. Joe Biden led that poll by 11 points. That poll was off by 9 percentage points in the state of Nevada. And you want to talk about accuracy. If you apply the same error, which I also don't think it's going to be as egregious, Donald Trump would be up comfortably in the state of Nevada. Now, I don't think Trump is going to win the state of Nevada by what would apparently be 7 points. But do I think he's probably going to win it at this point? Yeah, we've seen enough other polls, other data, certain metrics that would point towards Donald Trump making massive gains, including registration data. Same thing we see out of Arizona, which they have Harris and Trump at neck and neck in the state of Arizona. And when you look at their Arizona poll, you could pull this up here, the state of Arizona, looking at Arizona, and you could go all the way down here, 2020, go all the way down to Fox's poll this time of year. They had Biden up by 9. Biden was leading the polls by 9 points. Those polls were off by 8.7 percentage points at the end of the day. If you apply that error here, which I don't even think is the best way to predict the election overall, Donald Trump would be leading comfortably. He would be leading by 8 percentage points in Arizona. I don't think he's going to win it by 8, but I do think that he's winning Arizona, and I do think he's winning Nevada. North Carolina, they only have him up by 1. This one is probably a state that Donald Trump is going to win, but even then, we polled North Carolina. We got Trump plus 4. A lot of other pollsters are polling North Carolina, and they're getting Donald Trump up by more than just 1 percentage point. But let's look at North Carolina here. Let's see what Fox had to say about North Carolina this time of year. If we can pull up the poll from Fox News, here we go. They had Biden up by 4. He lost the state by 1 to 2. So that poll was off by like 5 to 6 points. If this poll's off by 5 to 6 points, Donald Trump would win North Carolina. We could do the same thing with the state of Georgia, by the way. If we could pull up the state of Georgia here. There we go. Fox's poll this time of year, which is their final poll. I think you'd have to go all the way back to June. Joe Biden led by 2 percentage points. So not as bad, but there's usually not the same level of response bias that we see in August. But regardless, still the poll underestimated Donald Trump. And people will be like, well, what about 2022? Because of the midterms, the same thing happened. It gets memory hold. Fox didn't poll every single race. They didn't poll in North Carolina. But in terms of Georgia, they had Warnock up by 4 in round 1, which was won by like 0.6%. So even then, the polling error did persist. It got worse in the state of Georgia, by the way. Arizona, it had Mark Kelly up by 8 points that time of year. He only won by 4.9. So still an underestimation of Republicans, even in a year where polling at the end of the day underestimated Democrats. And keep in mind, Donald Trump was not on the ballot. So when you look into the polls we see out of Fox News, good news for Donald Trump overall. That doesn't mean that I believe the polling error is going to continue or, the gap is going to be as wide, but I still think that there is some sort of polling error because keep in mind, this is right after the DNC. Democrat response bias should be high. And when you look into some of these polls, like in Arizona, they did not sample by party ID. They did not weigh it by what the typical election in Arizona usually goes by. 51% of the electorate in 2016 were Republican leaners. That was not true in the sample when only 43% were Republican leaners. Democrats, they had at 43 as well. And they had a very big oversample of true independents, which Donald Trump is gaining with. And it's true that there are some registered or people who identify as Republican, I think 10% roughly around that number, voted for Biden, a lot more than the amount of people who lean Democrat decided to vote for Donald Trump. But overall, it is what it is. It's beside the point, even assuming that they found a way to get it to cross out by having more, pro-Trump true independents, which is exactly what they had in the poll. Still, polls in Arizona, how many times have we been over this from Fox News in August, underestimating Donald Trump and other Republicans? It's a recurring theme. It happens quite a bit. And the fact that we're here, despite the sugar high, despite the convention, and these states are neck and neck, Donald Trump's got to be really encouraged by this. So, yeah, they're hitting back, of course, as they should, because Fox's polls are not exactly all that accurate, and they're not exactly a Republican-friendly pollster, contrary to popular belief. But still, we also have Emerson polls that dropped as well this morning. Arizona, Donald Trump leads by 3. And when you look at the state of Arizona in 2020, I don't know if we have a final poll for Emerson, but it actually was Biden +2. So already you kind of see a little bit of a shift. Michigan, Harris is up by 3. Georgia, Harris is up by 1 there. Nevada, Donald Trump is down by 1. So a very similar thing we're seeing in Emerson, a little bit less of a bad track record, but still overall, Wisconsin, they have Trump up, and Pennsylvania, it's a dead heat. So do keep this in mind. It does come down to turnout, but the fact that we're here, the week after the convention, the first dump of swing state polls, it's not looking all that great for Kamala Harris as things stand today. She is not really pulling ahead in any one of these big 7 swing states, and her momentum, that's the peak of her momentum. Georgia is a jump ball. Nevada is a jump ball. I think the polls in Nevada, they've historically overestimated Republicans, but because of certain educational trends that pollsters tend to miss, and you kind of saw this between the 2016 polling error in Nevada versus the 2020 polls in Nevada, where you didn't see that big polling error. Now is it possible at this stage in the game polls could be underestimating Donald Trump at a place like Nevada? Yeah, it's entirely possible, especially as those coalitions are shifting. The Republican coalition in Arizona and Nevada tended to be a little bit more college educated. Same thing with Texas. And in 2016, the polls in those states actually overestimated Donald Trump. But as that's shifting, as more, working class Hispanics are entering the fold, polls were either accurate in those states or underestimated Donald Trump in some places, including the state of Texas, by the way. So it's interesting to see how it shakes out. And in terms of the midterm elections, we typically see a more educated electorate, which does not bode too well with Republicans in this day and age compared to like 2010, because a lot of those lower propensity voters do tend to be working class. And while Republicans held their own with them margin-wise, it was not exactly at the level of turnout needed to deliver a lot of these big wins across these swing states that we saw. So overall, we got to see what happens for sure. But Donald Trump is in a good position, and the current polling kind of shows it. And by the way, the down ballot polls in the Fox poll were ridiculous. Kari Lake is not down by 15. And we saw the same thing in 2020 when Mark Kelly was defeating Martha McSally by like 15, 17 points in that same Arizona Fox poll that was underestimating Trump. So I think the down ballot results on election day could end up shocking a lot of people, because a lot of people, they go to vote for Trump, and even if they answer a poll and say, oh, I'm going to vote for this person down ballot because maybe they recognize the name or whatever, yeah, typically you don't see as much of a shift. The Senate candidates in any single state that had a disparity from Donald Trump, in a state that Donald Trump won, we did not see a split of more than 6%. So while Lake is not the favorite, while somebody like Mark Robinson is not the favorite, they're not going to lose by double digits most likely. I think the Hill-Emerson poll is actually grasping the current margin a little bit more accurately, but I still think that Stein is in for a tougher race than that just because of the Trump effect on the ballot. I was most shocked at the Wisconsin poll having a jump ball between Tammy Baldwin and Eric Hovde there as well. Hopefully Donald Trump can win the state by more than one, and that might be enough to pull Hovde over the top just because of how these elections typically take place down ballot with Donald Trump on the ballot. Few people gave Ron Johnson any shot of victory in 2016. He actually outran Donald Trump by several points, ironically enough, but a lot of that was because of Trump energizing voters simply out to vote for him that happened to just vote Republican down ballot, and that definitely boosted the numbers for all Republicans across the board. Did it in 2016 and 2020, by the way, so we'll see what happens this cycle. But anyways, guys, thanks for watching this video. Like this video down below, comment down below, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell for notifications so you never miss another video. Follow me on social media. The links are all in the description down below, and I will see you guys in the next one. Red Eagle, out.